Let's talk about density. This is something you and I have been working on for years now. And by working on, I mean investing in and being on the board of. What attracted you to density in terms of, we know what your thesis was in terms of computer vision, but in terms of the founder and where the company was at, and then take us into the journey to get them where they are now, which is Kleiner Perkins just did it's very public, a big round of over $50 million. The company has major customers. They've been very public about that. Take us through that journey of working with a founder with, I think when you got involved, it was low single digit employees to now.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're interested in the idea of how compute power interprets the physical world. There has to be a software service attached to that. Most people think cameras. I think cameras are a small part of how compute power works. So we think about microphones, sensors, infrared, laser, radar, all the ways of interpreting the physical world. I was introduced through Jonathan Triest.
Yep.
From Ludlow Ventures. He's a fantastic investor. Everybody loves out of Detroit. Everybody loves working with him.
And interestingly, he was, talk about a mensch. He would, when he was just had this venture firm, he would just sponsor the launch festival when I was trying to get it off the ground after I broke up with TechCrunch and Mike. And he just was like, hey, listen, I'll give you 10, 15 grand just to sponsor it. I was like, what do you get out of that? He's like, supporting you. I was just like, oh man, that's so nice.
He is the classic definition of the word mensch. And he's been a real pleasure to work with. And when someone like Jonathan says to me, Mark, you have to meet this founder.
Yeah.
I always talk about introduction and signaling and all these things and why they're so important and why they matter. Like, Jason, if you called me and said, Mark, you have to meet this founder, I'm going to drop things and meet the founder. And Jonathan did that, and he knew that I was interested in the category. And I met Andrew very early, incredibly impressive, also a menschy person. And he had a theory for what he thought was going to be a privacy compliant way of tracking people moving around office buildings and spaces. And I bought into the thesis. And we look at what's happened with the Uyghurs in China and using cameras to track, Uyghurs moving around for nefarious purposes. And you look at the pushback that I think modern society will have against camera invasion of public spaces and workspaces. I think non-camera solutions are going to do incredibly well. So he had an idea for how to solve that. I met some of the team he was attracting. I always say there's two things I look for, Jason, in a company really early. Cadence of shipping product. Can you ship? And the second is cadence and quality of attracting team members. And those are the two biggest tells for me. And so when you get guys like Garrett Bastable, who was out of Apple, who worked on the Apple Watch, who had a ton of experience in how to source and design and build products at scale, cross-border, and that person wants to then join Andrew in his mission, that's a really big tell. When you look at the founding team, Grazioli and a bunch of the people who work at Density, and how they had followed Andrew for 5 years on this mission, and he attracts and retains incredibly talented people. Both those things were important to me, Jason.